Stand by to initiate release sequencer. On my mark. 5.
We're on express elevator to hell. Going down.
2. 1. Mark.
Hello everyone, my name is Mark, aka Derringer. Today is Sunday, July 2nd, and you are listening to episode 112 of the Instant Action Podcast, your weekly source for Planetside 2 news and information. As always, I'm brought to you by great listeners like you via the Support the Show tab on instantactionpodcast.com. So I know I got a lot of you all sad that my KDR was so shitty the past couple play sessions, and I had to take a little break from the game and stuff like that. And thanks to everybody who pointed out that KDR isn't everything and score per minute is probably better. Something that I should be focusing on more than KDR, but it certainly is disheartening when your KDR gets screwed up right off the bat, and it makes my overall play session pretty shitty, even if my score per minute isn't too bad. The good news is this past week I did play. I played a lot more than I thought I would, and KDR is back to normal, score per minute's back to normal. I can certainly say that it was just a 1 week funk, and I've certainly worked my way out of it. So good news, I did not take too much of a break from Planetside 2 at all, and everything seems to be back to normal. Other than that, I hope everybody in the United States is gearing up to have a great 4th of July. My town does a local parade, and we also do fireworks every year, so my family and I are certainly looking forward to that. I do like the parade. It's an enjoyable time, and like I said, fireworks are always good, no matter where they are. I don't think I've ever been to a bad fireworks celebration on the 4th of July. So hopefully everybody in the U.S. is gearing up and is going to have an excellent 4th of July. Other than that, had a good party this weekend that I'm still recovering from right now. I'm recording awfully late on a Sunday night just to make sure I get a show up on Monday morning for you, even though I probably could record it tomorrow since I'm not going to be at work. But regardless, got to do my duty and due diligence for all you great listeners out there. So without further ado, what is actually in store for this week's show? Well, first we need to talk about Freedombration, which is really a word that someone at Daybreak Games probably made up after drinking a few too many Friday beers. Then we have to cue the Hallelujah music, because there is a PS4 game update to talk about. Yes, I know, I didn't think we'd see this day. Next, we have a small PC hotfix to cover, and finally a PTS update to talk about. Yes, Daybreak Games have been busy little bees this last week. So all that, plus a plethora of listener email to talk about. So why don't you strap in as we hot drop into another episode of the Instant Action Podcast. All right, so like I said, first we need to talk about joining the Freedombration. Freedombration is awful. I'm just going to get out there and say it right now. It's probably the single most silliest word that I've ever heard to describe an event such as this, but it's just a word, so I can get by it. What is Freedombration, you might ask yourself? It is going on from now until July 10th, so you'd certainly have a little bit of time to get in on that. They've released a bunch of old holiday items back into the depot. We're talking about all the sparkler hood ornaments. We're talking the various flare guns, and we're also talking the Patriot camos. I have the Patriot camos on quite a few of my characters. I think that they are some of the cooler camos that are out there. In case you're not aware, they're the ones that have the stars. It's like a stars and stripes type camo. The VS1's purple, the TR1 is red, and the NC1 is blue. Like I said, I do like them. Granted, I use my SOE Live camo on everything, so owning them kind of means nothing to me at this point. But if you don't own the Patriot camo, I would say go get it. If you don't own a flare gun, go grab it. It's kind of an annoying little thing to use at different times during the year and piss people off. I actually got a kill with my flare gun the other day without even realizing it. I pulled it out, not realizing that I had that equipped rather than the underboss, and shot some guy in the head with the flare gun and killed them. And I was like, oh my God. And of course, I was not recording it, so a little disappointed in that. These sparkler hood ornaments, I could take them or leave them. I'm not too keen on those. But again, all these things are available in the depot from now until July 10th. So if you want one of these things, go out there and get it now. In addition, for your light assault classes during the entire duration of the July 4th holiday event, again, this is through July 10th, you're going to get access to what they're calling freedom thrusters. And basically what these do is for your light assault, when you're flying through the air with them, you actually have a red, white, and blue trail coming out the back and little sparkler and star effects as well. It is very freedomful, in case you are curious. I've played Light Assault. Unfortunately, you can't see your own, but I've seen a whole bunch of people jumping around with this on and in-game itself. It's kind of funny. It's kind of cool, and something that we haven't seen from Daybreak Games before, and makes me wonder if freedom thrusters or some other thing are going to come to the depot sometime soon. If they're able to do it with one, I don't see why they wouldn't be able to do with other things. If any of you have played Rocket League, you know that all the cars have, you can get some sort of cool thruster to come out of them. I think that this could be an interesting little moneymaker for Daybreak Games if they started adding a bunch of other types of thrusters into the game itself rather than just the stock one. I know quite a few Light Assault mains that would be more than happy to go out and purchase some of these and use them. So hopefully Freedom Thrusters is just the first step towards seeing other kinds of thrusters for Light Assault classes. Now, in addition to those, if you're looking for other things, all infantry gear is 40% off. So if there's some sort of infantry gear you've been meaning to purchase, now is probably a good time to go and get it. Again, don't forget this is only running until July 10th, so there's a limited amount of time to pick this up. In case you're curious, July 10th is next Monday. It's a week from when this show will actually be released. So you do have a little bit of time to get out there and grab it. So with that, let's move on to, like I said, the Alleluia moment of this week's show. Like I said, I didn't think that I would see this day, and I think a lot of the people on the PS2 on PS4 subreddit were kind of chomping at the bit for a game update because it has been a long time since we've seen a game update for the PlayStation 4 side of Planetside 2. But on June 29th, the EU got it, and on June 30th, the US got it. So if you are a PS2 on PS4 player and you have not logged in recently, you might want to get that launcher running so that you can download this game update and maybe hop in and play if you haven't in a while, because you guys got a lot of things that have been on PC side for a while now, and some things that we received recently, you guys got them as well. So this is kind of a all over the board type of game update. Like I said, old things that PC has had for a while and new things that the PC just got. I will spoiler alert right at the front, let you know that you did not get construction in this. I think construction is still a work in progress at Daybreak Games and maybe something we never see on the PS4. I don't really know. I think the FPS loss due to construction is a little too much at this point. But that's neither here nor there. What actually did we get in this PS4 game update? First of all, you're now going to log in a Continent's Warp Gate. Unlike before, they changed the faction continent population imbalance threshold is now down to 10%. It originally was 15%. They made some adjustments to reinforcements needed. They also increased the maximum number of available spawns for reinforcements needed from 2 to 3. The terminal types for all terminals have been consolidated for all the non-coal tier continents. Same thing, ground vehicle terminals. You can now spawn any type of vehicle that you can spawn at it from one. Same thing with air. As for warp gates, you can spawn any vehicle you want at the warp gate regardless of benefits, and I'll get to those continent benefits in a second. You guys also got the new sky on Hassan, which is more of a blue, clear sky. So gone are the constantly dark and murkiness of Hassan itself. You also got the Biolab Dome changes, and they are now opaque. Opaque, if you're not sure, means you can't see through them. And you also got a lot of the performance increases when fighting in and around Biolab changes because of this. And all biolabs on all continents received this change and the interior lighting as well. But only the performance increases that you're going to see are on Amrish, Hassan, and Esamir. Indar is going to be fixed with a later patch. The eastern and western anti-vehicle turrets that were at the Crown have now been turned into anti-infantry turrets. And I've talked about this on past shows that it's to make it less easy to shell TI alloys from the Crown and get a lot of easy kills. So again, those are now anti-infantry turrets. And finally, they added a lattice link from Rime Analytics to Isa Mountain Pass that wasn't there before. Like I said, continent benefits, these just came to PC, so they're very new for us as well. Amrish's continent benefit, it no longer reduces infantry consumable costs. Instead, it now allows base generators to regenerate 5 health per second when they're destroyed. And if you're curious, this is equivalent to a 10-minute self-repair on non-SCU targets, and slightly more than a 13-minute self-repair on SCU. So again, if your faction owns Amrish, base generators and SCUs are going to regenerate themselves when they are destroyed. Indar is no longer going to reduce air vehicle costs. It is now going to increase the heat efficiency for base turrets. This was previously an amp station benefit. I'll get to the facility benefits in a minute. Esamir is no longer going to reduce ground vehicle costs. Instead, capture points of connected bases you own now increase infantry shield pool by 50 when you're actually standing near them. And Hassan, that one's benefits are unchanged. Basically, that still is ammo towers and air pads are going to repair nearby allied vehicles. Like I said, there are facility benefit changes as well. The big one is the tech plant. It is now required that your faction own a tech plant on the continent for you to spawn main battle tanks and liberators from the vehicle and air pads respectively. Now, if you are to hack a tech plant terminal, you can also yield a main battle tank or a liberator spawn, regardless of which faction owns the tech plant. That's a big one. Amp station no longer increases heat efficiency for base turrets. Again, we just saw that that's been added to Indar instead. Now, amp stations are going to do the repair turret over time, which is the same as on live currently. Biolabs are going to still provide infantry health regeneration in friendly regions. That's not changed as well. So again, a lot of changes to the continent lock benefits and whether your faction owns a tech amp or biolab as well. Next, you guys got access to the brand new Amrish refresh. And again, this is something that the folks on PC side are just still playing with too because of these changes. You got the Icanam Biolab change. The interesting thing here is that it is now that new circular, pad that you can build construction on. But since you guys don't have construction, you're only able to fight within the inside. But also note that it does have the 2 new vehicle capture control points that are on the outskirts of the base. Now, I know a lot of the PlayStation 4 folks do not have access to the PTS. Get inside Icanam and play around with it because it is a lot cooler inside Icanam than it ever was in the past. You have your standard biolab. Now, this thing is a maze. There are so many kitty corners to fight around. It's a lot of fun. Definitely recommend you get in there and check it out. Subterranean nanite analysis, big one I talked about on a show ago. That has been removed, as well as its link on the lattice. It is now a prime area for vehicular combat. So, yes, you guys can't do the farm at SNA anymore either. I hope you guys got it in while you could before it got changed. Ickenham Triage Station got some changes. Sungri West Gate got some changes. Lithcorp Central, Raxcom Network Hub to the NC Arsenal, and the NC Arsenal itself also got changes. Ascent had a bunch of changes to it as well. I'm not going to dig into the nitty-gritty of all of these. Just note that that whole lattice lane and all those changes, all those routes have been changed within the game itself. Next, moving on to infantry. Knives got some new wield animations. We've had these on PC for quite a while now, but pull out your knives and you'll notice some differences. You got the NSX Yumi, which you didn't have before. This is the one that unleashes an accurate 5-round burst after a short firing delay. This is one being used by medics currently. You guys also got the NSX Tengu. This is the new submachine gun that is basically a submachine gun shotgun that I've been talking about ad nauseum recently. I love the NSX Tengu. I recommend you guys get in there, buy that, play with it, use it. It is a very fun gun to use as a light assault, and especially now during Freedombration. You guys also got the hard light barrier. This is something for engineers only. It's basically a deployable shield wall. Some things to note, because somebody did ask about it on Reddit, saying that they were very excited for hard light barriers to come because they were very disinterested in finishing out their anti-infantry mana turret, and I pointed out to them that really the anti-infantry mana turret is really only 1,160 kills to Araxium, whereas the hard light barrier, you have to earn draw fire experience ribbons, and these are triggered when a target who damages your hard light barrier is killed. Now, you need to get 15 kills, or 15 people that have shot your hard light barrier need to die in order to obtain a draw fire ribbon. So if you are doing the napkin math like I did earlier this week, you need to get 3,750 kills, or 3,750 people need to die, and you need to rely on your friendlies to do that for you. So if you were thinking right off the bat that you'd be using the hard light barrier rather than the anti-infantry turret to finish out the engineer directive, maybe you want to keep banging away at that AI turret. As someone who has done the AI turret, I found that it was a lot easier to do than the hard light barrier itself. Just my 2 cents on that one. Next, moving along, C4 can now be deconstructed by engineer repair tools. So remember, if you see an engineer running towards an enemy C4, don't shoot that C4 because they can disarm it. Motion spotters, recon devices, scout radar, and proximity radar all had their detection versus infantry no longer contingent on player speed, and it also now detects infantry targets that are not crouching, standing, or crouch walking. Claymore's got a bit of a detonation angle change, just very small. The Trap M1 got some adjustments that should increase its range and accuracy on the 2-time bursts and further separate it from the 3-time burst. EMP grenades got some changes. Their costs were decreased from 75 down to 50. It no longer drains ability energy, and it no longer disables Sunderer deployment shields. It will still drain minor cloak implants. It will also drain Sunderer cloak and infantry affected by a Sunderer cloak. But it also no longer clears HUD indicators. Still shows the static, though. And they did fix an issue where players within line of sight and greater than 12 meters but less than 15 meters would only have their shields reset instead of taking them offline. The AV mana turret got some further adjustments. It's now going to render more often at further ranges. Your underbarrel grenade smoke launchers both got their ammo capacity increased, and the smoke launcher got some further adjustments to its ammunition resupply rate and its 2 times headshot multiplier. The emergency repair for Maxes, it's got the new particle effects on use that have been on PC for a little while now. And finally, for your Lightning, Vanguard, and Prowler, they have received some improvements to their traction on slopes, braking power, acceleration, and turn rates. In addition to that, there were a whole bunch of different bug fixes. Now, as for that last one, that vehicle one, I have watched countless videos put up by PlayStation 4 folks that show the Vanguard rolling all over the place, down cliffs, like it's moving along on a greased track or something. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see some sort of change to these quote-unquote improvements that those 3 tanks received, because they are sliding all over the place right now. So be wary when you're out there piloting those types of vehicles. Traction's probably not exactly where it should be. So all in all, I don't think that this is a terrible game update for PlayStation 4 folks. Yes, like I said at the beginning, there is no construction. I get it. I think the FPS loss, like I said, is too great at this point, and they need to keep working on that. But, I mean, you guys got a lot of the cool changes that we've had for a while now. Content benefit changes are kind of big. Getting the Biolab changes are big as well. I know inside a Biolab, a lot of times the FPS would dip far too low on the PlayStation 4. I experienced that myself when I played. So happy to see that come over as well. Getting the Yumi and the Tengu both out at the same time is great. I wish they had gotten them out a little closer to PC side, but I guess better late than never. Also, Hard Light Barrier, giving engineers another way to finish off that directive if they want to, as well as some of the other changes. I mean, the EMP grenade change is a big one. That's been on live on PC for a while now with those changes. But again, overall, I think that this is a good patch. I think the only real bad thing in there that I've seen is that vehicle traction change seems to have screwed things up for Lightnings, Vanguards, and Prowlers. But other than that, I think that this was a good patch, and if you have not played on the PlayStation 4 in a while, now is the time to fire that bad boy up and get into Planetside 2. Third up this week, we have a extremely small PC hotfix to talk about. This dropped on June 29th. It included some bug fixes, mostly to the Tengu itself. We got some crouch walking cone of fire changes, and also some changes to the suppressor audio to more accurately match the weapon's rate of fire. They also fixed a bug where the hybrid laser was not granting the pellet spread reduction. So again, a couple different changes to Tengu. So if on PC you've given up using the Tengu, it might be time to go check that bad boy out again. They also made some other miscellaneous changes and adjustments. They added a throwing knife HUD icon when the NSX Fujin is equipped. The Fujin is the knife that you receive when you make the master rank of 4 different NSX weapons. They also modified the Fujin's projectile visuals and changed the Fujin loadout screen camera as well. The final change in this hotfix was that Hunter crossbows now have access to smoke bolts. So again, an extremely small PC hotfix, mostly just for bug fixes on the Tengu, and a couple little things for the Fujin mostly. If those are 2 things that you use, make sure you patch up and get in and play with them. All right, fourth and final topic this week. Like I said, Daybreak Games have been extremely busy this past week because in addition to getting a PlayStation 4 game update on both the EU and the US, adding the Freedom Bration stuff, they added those jetpack changes, and also adding in a hotfix on PC, they updated the PTS on June 30th. And a lot of Indar lattice changes were the first things that we got to see. Indar lattice changes and Indar base design. I'm not going to dig through all of these different things, but I mean, for the lattice, there have some new links added from Howling Pass to Mao Watchtower, Mao Southeast Gate to Mao Watchtower, Tarwich Tower to Tars Depot, and Havar Databank to Havar Physics Lab. Palisades got some changes. Indar Bay Point did. Tarwich Recycling did. NS Secure Data Lab did. The Crown got a lot of changes to it. If you've been following Rel on Twitter, he's been tweeting out a whole bunch of changes to the Crown as he's been making them. We're talking about things like the western cliff face no longer easily accessible to vehicles, increasing coverage on the Rock Bridge to the east, adding new routes and more coverage to the northern cliff face, also adding a vehicle capturable point to the northern cliff. The capture point on the southern bridge has been moved to an underground area accessible from the south and east of the Crown. Capture point on the eastern bridge was moved to the top of the eastern plateau. They also increased a whole bunch of cover density. If you're coming from the east, they removed the jump pads altogether. They made the northern vehicle pad operational. They added some tower geometry adjustments to close off some western-facing routes, and they also added an additional road beneath the bridge to the south of the Crown for easy access from TI alloys. Ammo Tower got some positional change, and also adjustments were made to reduce stagnation when pulling vehicles from the southern pad itself. Again, Crown got a ton of changes to it. When this thing finally comes to live, it's going to be a completely different base to fight over. Indar Kamaray got some changes, and I'm going to talk about this one just because Indar Kamaray is my favorite base in Planetside 2, hands down. They added a new northern route and added some cover density to it as well. Attacking Indar Kam from the north has always been that uphill slog of a fight, so I'm really curious to see how that's going to change. I love fighting at Indar Kamaray, so any way to keep me fighting at Indar Kamaray, 2 thumbs up for me. They also made some changes to Dahaka Southern Post, Series Hydroponics, and Indar Bay Point. Next, for vehicles, they've added some handling to it, specifically for treaded vehicles. A treaded vehicle is your Lightning, your Vanguard, and your Prowler specifically. Their reverse steering mechanics for these treaded vehicles, they've reverted what's been on live for these because the changes had a negative impact on the feel of tanks when maneuvering on certain slopes. So good news for all the tank people who complained about those reverse steering mechanics. They were not as good as they could have been, so I'm glad they've gone and reversed that. Racer high-speed chassis on harassers also got some changes. They reduced the traction while turning to allow for more control during certain maneuvers. I'm not a big harasser guy, so I can't really speak to that. Next big change is IR smoke. And this is on your Ant, your Flash, your Harasser, your Sunder, your Lightning, or your main battle tanks. This has been renamed altogether to Smoke Screen, so it's no longer IR Smoke. What it's going to do is emit smoke for 8 seconds at all ranks, and the cooldown is going to be 40, 35, 32, or 30 seconds, depending on your rank. What it's going to do when you pop it for that 8 seconds, it's going to immediately clear current spot markers for you and all allied vehicles within 30 meters. It's going to prevent all lock-on attempts for 8 seconds for you and all allied vehicles within 30 meters. And it's going to mask the vehicle's minimap auto spot signature for you and all allied vehicles within 30 meters. A lot of times in the past, people did not use IR smoke. Now that is going to, clear spot markers, prevent lock-on, and mask your auto spot signature for not only you but other allied vehicles within 30 meters, it's going to be a usable option or something that if you have multiple tanks going around together, some sort of good tank outfit is playing some coordinated attacks. I expect to see more people using IR smoke. The dev note is that allowing it to affect nearby vehicles increases its value in team play. Like I just said, gives players initial incentive to choose it. I think it's a good idea. I like that it's going to work on allied vehicles, and you'll see a lot more people using IR smoke, or you should see more, smoke screen. You should see smoke more on the battlefield when in tank fights. Moving along, infantry changes. The biggest one is they've added a new Mayhem directive, and the Mayhem directive can be completed only by using Ravenous or Heat Wave skinned weapons. Now, we've seen the Ravenous weapons. Those are in-game. Heat Wave are not on live yet. They are on the PTS if you want to check those out. If you do complete the directive, you're going to receive a unique brass variant of their new pistol, the NS-45 Pilot. The weapons and directive are still a work in progress, but if you want to see an early iteration of it, you can go and check it out on the PTS. Finally, under miscellaneous adjustments, the prototype alert that I've talked about in the past, I talked about Drax's video on it, they have removed that from the test server. Maybe that means we could see that on live sometime in the near future. I don't know. They gave no further information other than that it has just been removed from the test server. Again, I am all for new types of things, new types of alerts. Prototype was very interesting. The LLU that I talked about based on Vindicor stuff last week is another one that's interesting. I would like to see more alerts in the game, and I'm going to use this as a glass half full scenario and say that perhaps this is being finalized and we could see this on live sooner rather than later. So again, there is your PTS update. So certainly, like I said, Daybreak Games very busy this past week. And with that, let's move on to this week's housekeeping.
Housekeeping. Housekeeping.
Come back later, please.
Housekeeping.
Not now.
Housekeeping.
Go away.
I coming anyway?
And like I said, I do have some stuff for housekeeping. First, I got an email from Hybrid, and he writes, Derringer, hi, I hope you're doing well. Love the podcast. I just wanted to get your thoughts on something. What if the devs were to add SCUs to all large outposts and tower bases? I think they are an interesting and possibly underutilized mechanic within the game. My outfit mates and I have been discussing for a while about going all out and disabling hard spawns at any base, which is contested, but personally I think a similar but easier change would be to add more SCUs. Hopefully it would have the same effect of encouraging defenders to bring up their own AMS, and secondarily give vehicles something to do besides farm infantry. Well, Hybrid, I thought about this one a little while when I got your email earlier this week, and personally, being in an outfit that focuses primarily on infantry, I don't know that I want to have more SCUs added to the game. And the reason I say that is because playing an infantry type outfit, we want as many people as possible pouring out of their spawn room and attacking us so that we can maximize the number of kills that we get. Having an SCU at all these different bases is going to incentivize my fellow faction, whichever it might be that night, to destroy the SCU or take down the SCU, therefore limiting the amount of players coming under the gaze of my crosshairs. So I don't know that I'm fully on board with SCUs being added to all the various bases like that. Is it not a bad idea? No, it's not a bad idea, because you're absolutely right. It will encourage defenders to bring up their own AMS. But I'm thinking rather than that, they might just go to a different base altogether. I'm thinking tech plants in particular. Obviously, tech plants have their SCU. When you take down the SCU at the tech plant, I think most fights kind of die at the tech plant. And I'm worried that would happen to large outposts and tower bases. Not to say that it wouldn't be interesting to play around with, but I need as many people as possible rolling through my line of sight. Next up, I got an email from Pipeline Audio, and he said, more Pink Fairies hijinks. This time, Free Walker is launching a Sunderer over a wall, and he includes a link to a YouTube video. Like I said, I'm loving the Pink Fairy stuff. Send it as much as you want. I'll include a link to this YouTube video so my listeners can check this out as well. It's hilarious what you guys do, and keep it up. Next, this was on Reddit. I got a message from Rabbit Mix. And he wrote, hey, just got a chance to listen to the last episode of the IAP, and I wanted to thank you for the little shout-out at the beginning. I was the one who used your link to buy a D&D 5th edition player's handbook and a PlayStation VR. I'm really happy that I can support the show in such an easy way. Thanks for taking the time to do the podcast every week. Having done a podcast in the past, I know how much time and effort it really takes. Even if I only play PS2 off and on, I'm glad I can count on you to keep up with what's happening in Araxis when I'm not there. So, Rabbit Mix, I wanted to take a moment and thank you again for the PSVR D&D 5th Edition Player's Handbook purchases using my Amazon link. You're right, it is the easiest way to support a show like mine. In fact, I do it for podcasts that I listen to. I've included their link, or I have their link on my one of my Chrome tabs. So anytime I purchase something on Amazon, I give that other podcast a little kickback so that they can continue and keep going. I also got the other half of your Reddit post that I'm not going to read out loud on the show. I will send you an invite at some point, so look out for that. And my fourth note this week also was on Reddit. It was from Shadow Insignis. And he wrote, I'm going to pass this your way. And when he says this, it is a manifesto that he wrote up, so to speak, about the Valkyrie. And it's titled The Great Holy War Against Planetmans. I'll include a link to his Reddit post so you guys can go check this out. And so continuing on, he writes, because while it's written in jest, or is it, I'm interested in getting some movement and pressure on getting road kills included in the Valkyrie directive. I know you have plenty of content week to week, but it's a very informative podcast. But if you ever find a minute or two for it, it'd be appreciated. The Valkyrie is the only vehicle lacking N1 directives, meaning that whereas most other vehicles give you an option of, well, I don't have fun or just don't have an aptitude for this one aspect of the vehicle, so I can skip that one, the Valkyrie requires all 5. Meaning that unless you're willing to cheese rumble seat kills, which are absurdly situational, you're shit out of luck. This isn't on par with how directives for other vehicles are treated and stalls out progression and enthusiasm for the vehicle once people realize how annoying the rumble seat requirement is. It's a niche issue, but a simple, low-hanging one in that the code has already been written for the harasser. Also, it's hilariously funny. Go ahead, give it a try, run someone over in a Valk. Keep up the good work. Shadow Insignis, I didn't even realize that the Valkyrie required all 5 for you to, Araxium the Valkyrie, so to speak. So, and you're absolutely right. That rumble seat one is just I can't tell you how many kills I've gotten out of that thing from rumble seat, and it's probably less than 0. So the fact that you need something like that and running people over the Valkyrie, I've seen people do it. I've done it myself. It is hilariously funny. It is hilariously fun to do. So I am completely on board with getting road kills added to the Valkyrie. And like I said, I will include a link to your Reddit post so other people can go and give their thumbs up to it as well. All right. Like I said, a very full mailbag this week. But that's going to be it for this week's show. So how can you get in touch with me or the show like these guys did? There's a couple different ways. First off, visit my website, www.instantactionpodcast.com. Send me an email, just like Hybrid and Pipeline Audio did. It's instantactionshow@gmail.com. Call me, leave me a voicemail, 347-486-4772. Again, that's 347-4VM4PS2. The show's Twitter account is @InstActPodcast, and my personal Twitter is @TheDerringer. My Reddit is also The Derringer, so that's how you can get in touch with me if you need to. So, in closing, if you've enjoyed the show, please leave me a review on your podcast listening avenue of choice, whether it's iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, or anywhere else. Also, feel free to tell your friends and outfit mates about the show. And finally, thanks for listening, and keep spamming that Join Combat, formerly known as Instant Action button.